I remember that evening too well to call it just a memory. It lives inside me like it happened yesterday, not a year ago. My name's Jake. I was 19 when I first saw her on the corner of 87th and Bay Parkway. The wind was warm, the cars loud as always, but she stood there in headphones, wrapped in a hoodie, staring off like she wasn't waiting for a bus but for a sign. I don't know what clicked inside me. Maybe it was the way her shoulder twitched like the beat in her ears pulled her in, or the way her eyes caught the streetlight. But I just walked up. You waiting for a bus that's never showing up? I joked. She looked at me. Took out one earbud. Brown eyes tired but bright. Maybe I'm waiting for a reason not to go home, she said. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because she felt real. We started talking. Her name was Lena. She was 17. Went to school somewhere downtown but lived here, in Bensonhurst. Said she liked the streets at night, fewer people, less noise, more truth. We walked until 1 a.m. Just talked. I told her about my job at the garage, how my older brother moved to Atlanta 'cause he couldn't take living with Mom anymore, and my dad left before I even learned how to ride a bike. She nodded, smoked a cheap Parliament, and every time her eyes met mine, something inside me shifted. Next day, I texted her. Just, you still think the streets stay silent? She replied 2 minutes later. No. But with you, they sounded different. That's how it started. Those first few weeks felt like a movie. We roamed the city, ate pizza on the curb, made out on the subway, sent each other long voice notes at 2 a.m. She told me about her mom, breakdowns, bottles, fights. Said she stayed at a friend's a lot 'cause breathing at home felt impossible. I took her to this abandoned rooftop. You could see everything: Manhattan, Staten Island, even a slice of the ocean far off. If I could live up here, I'd never come down, she said. No past here. Just wind. Sometimes I felt like we were both running. Me, from loneliness and the static in my chest that no beat could drown out. Her, from family, from pain, from herself. But together we found breath. One day we went to Coney Island, just randomly on a weekday. It was almost empty. We rode the Ferris wheel, ate corn on the boardwalk, and then I saw something in her eyes. Not love. Not joy. Something else. Something wrong? I asked. She turned away, smoked. I can't keep doing this, Jake. Why not? Because you're good. And I'm not. I know how these stories end. I've seen it. I held her hand. I've seen it too. Maybe we write a different one. She smirked. Didn't answer. A couple months passed. We were basically living together. My mom went to my grandma's for a few weeks, so Lena stayed over. We made pancakes, watched old movies, slept wrapped around each other. I was sure, if anything in life was real, it was her. Then the calls started. Late night. Blocked numbers. Lena got nervous, kept turning off her phone. One night, I woke up, and she was gone. Came back at dawn. Where were you? At a friend's. It's fine. I knew she was lying. The next day I followed her. Not out of jealousy. Out of fear. She met some guy near an old pharmacy. He looked older, dressed like he was in the game. They talked. She yelled. He grabbed her arm. I ran toward them, but they disappeared down the block. Later I asked. She stayed quiet for a long time, then said, He's my ex. He's blackmailing me. Says if I don't give him money, he'll leak photos, tell my mom, dig up the stuff from before. I wanted to kill him, but instead I said, I'm here. We'll deal with it. Together. We made a plan. I gave her everything I had, $800. He backed off for a couple weeks. Then he came back. Wanted more. One night, I found her crying in the bathtub. She'd cut her wrists, not deep, but enough to scare the hell out of me. I called an ambulance. They wanted to take her to a clinic. She begged to stay home. I sat with her all night. You think I'm broken? She whispered. I think you're alive. And being alive hurts. Time passed. We made it through. I found someone who knew that guy, a dude I grew up with. Paid him to scare the ex off. It worked. Not cheap, But it worked out. We finally breathed again. Started living. For real. Spring came. Lena applied to college. I got a full-time gig at the shop. We started talking about the future. She quit smoking. I wore the chain she gave me. One night, back on that same rooftop, she said, "You know, Jake, if you hadn't walked up to me that day at the bus stop, I think I would have disappeared. For good. But with you, I learned to believe again." I smiled. "I'm not going anywhere. Even if the streets go silent again." 7 months had passed since that night on the rooftop. Lena got into college, graphic design program. I was working 6 days a week at the garage, started saving money. We rented a small apartment in Bay Ridge, close to the subway. There were simple things: pasta in the evenings, morning coffee in paper cups, quick kisses before work, and a blanket we curled up under while watching Netflix. It was peaceful. Almost perfect, and that started to scare me. One evening, Lena came home late, said she was at school, working on a project with a friend. But her fingers were shaking, and she forgot to take off her backpack at the door, something she never did. I felt it. Something was creeping back into our lives. "You okay?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Yeah, Jake, just tired." I nodded. But I knew it wasn't just tiredness. It was fear. 2 days later, I found a note in her jacket pocket, a ripped yellow scrap from a notebook. It said, "He's back. We need to talk. Just once." And a number. Not saved in her phone. I didn't confront her. I waited. That night, while she was washing dishes, I sat down across from her. "Is he back, Lena?" She froze. The water kept running, but her eyes stopped. "Yes," she whispered. "I didn't look for him. He found me." "What does he want?" "I don't know. He says he's changed. That he wants to make things right." I felt the cold rise inside me. "You want to meet him?" Silence. "I have to. To end it. For good." I didn't sleep that night. My head played every scenario: a trap, threats, old demons. But in my heart, that same weakness from a year ago when I first saw her at the bus stop. I knew who she was. I knew what she'd been through. And I knew that if I didn't let her face this her way, I'd lose her. "Meet him," I told her in the morning. "But not alone." She insisted on going alone. We made a deal. I'd be in the nearby cafe, within sight. They met in the park. He wore a dark hoodie, eyes hidden under the hood. I saw her tense up. He handed her something, a paper envelope. It lasted 12 minutes. She stood up and walked away. Never looked back. He stayed on the bench. When I caught up to her, she was shaking. We sat in my car. I held her hand. "What was that?" He brought proof. That his old boss, the one who held the blackmail, was killed in a shootout. Said everything's gone now. Said I'm free. I wanted to feel relief. I did. But something in me knew this wasn't the end. It was a pause. A week later, Lena disappeared. I woke up, and she was gone. Phone off. Messages unread. Cops wouldn't take a report. Wait 48 hours. I went to her college. She hadn't shown up since Friday. Asked her friends. No one knew anything. My mind was screaming. My chest hollowed. I went to the park. That same bench, and I found him. He was standing there. Alone. Like he'd been waiting. I walked up, fists clenched, heart pounding. "Where is she?" He looked up. Smiled. "You love her, huh?" I hit him. Hard. He fell. But kept talking. "She left on her own. She asked me not to tell you. Said if you look for her, you'll lose her forever." I didn't believe him. He stood, handed me a note. "Jake. I'm sorry. I can't breathe with the past still around me. Even if you are my present. I need to figure out who I am. Don't wait. Just live. If it's fate, we'll meet again." A month passed. I went back to work. Quiet. No small talk. No smiles. Every night, I returned to that rooftop. Looked at the city. Listened to the silence of the streets. And one night, 47 days later, I saw her. She stood in the same hoodie. With the same distant look from that first night. I walked out to the roof. Couldn't believe my eyes. She looked at me. Smiled. I thought you'd leave. I walked up. Hugged her. No words. You find what you were looking for? I whispered. I found emptiness. And realized, it's not fear that should fill it, but love. Not escape. You. I didn't say anything. Just took her hand. The streets were silent. But inside us, life began to speak again. Lena came back. After 47 days missing. I thought I'd never see her again. But there she was, standing on that same rooftop as if she'd never left. Same hoodie. Same eyes. But inside she was different. I could feel it in her breathing. In the way her fingers trembled when she took my hand. She came back, but brought a shadow with her. We started living together again. It felt like our first year all over again. Coffee, movies, sex at dawn, silence between the words. But I noticed, she never left her phone out of sight. Took calls outside. Sometimes her eyes got lost in the void, like she wasn't really there. I didn't ask. I waited. We moved to Queens. The old apartment was suffocating with memories, not because of the furniture, but because of the past. I got a job at a nearby auto shop. Lena freelanced, designing album covers for indie bands. Life seemed to move on, until one night changed everything. Walking home from work, I noticed a black sedan parked outside. It had been there for 3 days. I played it cool. But instinct, that street-born animal, whispered, "They're watching." When I came in, Lena was waiting. Pale, she already knew. "They found me, Jake." "Who?" "Diego's people." I exhaled. "You said he was dead." "He is. But the case he was working on isn't." Lena confessed. While she was gone, she'd been working with a lawyer to try and shut down one of Diego's unfinished operations. There were names, evidence, documents, but instead of burying the case, she uncovered something worse. And now she was the key. "If they find me, they won't just kill me. They'll erase everything I've ever drawn, loved, or built, including you." "Why did you come back?" "Because I needed something real in my life." "You." I decided to act. Reached out to an old cop I knew, Nick. Back in the day, he'd covered for me when I ran with the Brooklyn crew. Nick promised help. 2 days later, we were robbed. Nothing valuable stolen, except Lena's hard drive and her laptop. That night, I got a text. "You trusted the wrong people. Watch your back." And Nick sold us out. We had to RUN.AT night. No plans. No goodbyes. Burn everything. Forget what we couldn't bury. We took a car, headed toward Pennsylvania. Lena had an old friend who could shelter us. For the first time in years I felt free. We stopped at a roadside motel. Lena fell asleep on my shoulder. Her breathing, slow, deep. Then, headlights. A car pulled into the lot. A man stepped out, sat on a bench outside, and waited. I didn't sleep that night. I walked out. Approached him. He wasn't armed. "Jake," he said, "Lena isn't who you think." "Shut up. Her art, it's not just design. It's a cipher. She hid the evidence in her illustrations. Now everyone wants it. You're full of shit." He handed me a paper. It was one of Lena's drawings, and beneath it, coded symbols. I'd seen them before, back in the day, when we used street tags. Lena had been hiding the truth in plain sight. He stood up. "We don't want to kill her. We just want what she knows. Disappear." I returned. Lena was awake. I showed her the paper. She didn't cry. "Yeah. It's true. Asterisk. Why didn't we went back to New York? Lena arranged a meeting with her hunters, but only on her terms. The deal, she'd hand over the original coded artwork. But copies would stay hidden, ready to be released if anything happened to her. I waited nearby. Watching, they came. 3 men. One of them, the motel guy. The talk didn't last. 1 pulled a gun. I rushed in. 1 shot. 1 screamed. I didn't know who was hit. Who was still standing. When I got there, Lena was on the ground. Blood on her arm. Still breathing. I grabbed her. Cops were already on their way. She called them anonymously earlier. Point 2 were arrested. Point 1 escaped. We survived. We live in Seattle now. We have a house. A small art studio for Lena. A garage. We opened together. We never talk about the past. But some nights, when the streets go silent again, I wonder, the one who got away, the code hidden in her early drawings, the silence that still waits. Point 1 day, maybe, someone will knock on our door. But for now, we're alive, and that's enough.